This is the Heart of Singing podcast, the place where passionate singers and vocal coaches of many different styles will share their passion about the wonderful art of singing and making a career with their voices. I'm your host, Henry Crescini. Now, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Heart of Singing podcast. I'm Henry Crescini, your host. I hope you have been enjoying the podcast so far. And please subscribe, please follow. By the time I'm recording this, we're still only on anchor.fm/the heart of singing. Still waiting for that distribution to the other podcast platforms to be completed. And I'm also on YouTube on my personal channel, youtube.com/Henry Crescini. You find the description in the show notes and in the video description if you're already watching on YouTube. And yeah, I've been having fun doing this, and I have recorded several interviews so far. So today, episode 3, I have a very special guest. His name is Kevin James. He's an Australian singer-songwriter who has a very special style, what he calls heartsongs. He will tell us what that means, but I can tell you so much already. He combines mantras, Sanskrit mantras and mantras in other languages with the English language, and he creates his own music this way. So he's a very, very nice guy, very nice singer, and I was very happy to interview him. So I won't give you much more of an introduction. I leave you now with my interview with Kevin James. Enjoy. So hi, Kevin. Nice that you have time for us.
Thanks, Henry. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you in the Heart of Singing podcast. And we have been talking off the air before about how we discovered you, my wife and I, through a meditation app. And then came Spotify, and now we follow you on Facebook, and we follow your live mini shows that you do from home. It's quite a time we're living in, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique experience to be passing through this phase of humanity.
That's right. But through this medium, so to say, you also accomplished crowdfunding for your new album, which you just released a few days ago, Wild Free Spirit. So congratulations on that. And how has it performed so far?
The album?
Yes.
Yeah, really well. The people from the crowdfunding, there was around 500 people that received the album, and the feedback was more than, it was just perfect. It was the best feedback you could get as a musician, to feel that people had the experience of people feeling closer connection to their heart, feeling more present, tears of joy, feelings of bliss. These are some of the messages coming back, and I was just getting really high from that. Just a feeling of satisfaction and completion, I think, because I was holding a vision of creating something that could elevate people's emotional state to one of more harmony and happiness, and relieve some of the suffering that we were going through, and especially with the corona times. It felt like I was sitting on an album that was almost finished, and and I felt that we really need to get this out there, and because we couldn't tour, we couldn't fund the remaining mixing and mastering and everything. So we thought, well, Susanna, my wife, came up with the idea of a crowdfunding, and we both thought it was kind of an impossible dream, because at first I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to ask for people for help, because I felt like there were a lot of people that needed help. But then after some time I realized, well, there's some people who are struggling, and then there are other people who actually aren't spending any money and are just sitting at home, and they could really use the album. And I thought, well, I'll just reach out to those people, and that's really what happened. And we got the support we needed. We got exactly what we needed, and with a bit extra for a video, which was finished yesterday. And so we have a Wild Free Spirit video that, I was just watching it before you called, and I'll be releasing it tomorrow. So that's really exciting
great.
as well.
Yeah, tomorrow, for people who are watching this in the future, we are recording this on the 3rd of March, 2021. So tomorrow will be the 4th of March, 2021. Maybe there's somebody watching this or listening to this in 10 years. We don't know. Yeah. You describe your style as heart songs. What does this mean for people who don't know?
It's music from the heart, and from the heart to the heart. And it was the best word or the best couple of words I could find to describe the music, because it didn't have a genre, it didn't have a name. It had influences from different traditions around the world, and also influences from my upbringing in Australia. And so I just gave it that term to try and define it.
Okay, how do you differentiate this from what people nowadays know as singer-songwriter style?
I differentiate it because it has a participation aspect to it. So it encourages people to sing with me, and that's really the essence of my music. And where I decided as a singer-songwriter, I do have some songs that are kind of in that genre, but I also do a lot of chanting of mantras from various traditions around the world, and I encourage people to sing them together with me. So I sort of had this mission of bringing the experience of participating in music to people, so that they could get more of an expression out of music than just passively listening, because I felt that there was an opportunity for us to have a closer connection to the source through our emotions. So I felt that it's really powerful to experience music. When we listen, it can bring up emotions, but if you actually express yourself, you can bring up more emotions. Just like if I want to express myself, I can use my hands, and I get more of an expression.
Yes.
And also, if I wanted to express an emotion, I can make a sound, and I get more of an expression of the emotion. So if I'm silent and I love someone, it's less of an experience than if I say I love you. And then if I pour some feeling into it, like, oh, I love you, then there's even more emotion coming through. And I felt that this thing that we call God or Spirit or the Creator,
I call it source. Yes.
Source, it really is universally, we can agree that it's love and it's peace and it's joy and it's happiness, and they're all emotions. And so I realized that our connection to the source is not something that is just a dry experience. It's an expressive experience. And so I wanted people to have more of a connection to the source through music by expressing it. So I wanted to give that experience of expression to people, and so they can reconnect to the source again, because I felt that it was our disconnection from source that was causing so much dysfunction that I could see in the world, environmentally, culturally, and also individually within ourselves. So I really went on a bit of a mission to sort of support the movement of people reconnecting to source, or to God, or to spirit, through music as well as being a singer-songwriter. So that aspect is there. So that's why I brought the word heart into it, because
Okay.
yeah, that's where we feel it.
And you are from Australia, so you grew up in the Western culture kind of way, and still you felt inclined to sing these mantras in Sanskrit and in other languages. How did you come across mantras? How did you find this calling?
It was a calling. I was, yeah, grew up in Australia in mainstream culture there without, I mean, it wasn't that I hadn't been exposed to anything alternative, but I was really unaware of things like yoga, mantra. Um, it was before yoga even really took off in the world. So we're talking 30 years ago. But I had this dream, childhood dream of traveling, and an opportunity came for me to do that. So at 21 years old, I left my small town that I grew up in and took off to go and see the world. And it took me to Asia, and that's where I discovered the mantras and the teachings of the East there. And when there was a pivotal moment where I was traveling with my friends, and we were doing the main sort of backpacker traveling route, and I felt that I was kind of hanging on to them, clinging to them in a way for a sense of security. And I felt that I'd forgotten my dream of traveling. And that dream of traveling was by myself, to sort of be on some kind of adventure, exploring and following wherever I was guided. And so I went to my friends and said, look, I'm going to go on my own. And after I did that and told them that, I went into a bookshop, which was kind of the first step of that adventure on my own. And I literally saw a book push out of the shelf. And I couldn't believe my eyes, but, I just looked behind the shelf. There was no one there. So I grabbed the book, and the title said Dzogchen, Self-Liberation Through Seeing with Naked Awareness. And I was like, whoa, that looks really interesting. I think I better buy it. So, I bought it, took it back to the hotel room and opened it up and just read the introduction. And I found myself weeping like a baby. It was the first time something that I understood inside of myself but could never share, it was never reflected back to me before I read these words. And and then my friend came in to visit me, and he saw my face, and he was like, "You okay? What's wrong?" And I said, "This book, just read the introduction. You wouldn't believe what's inside of this book. It's just so beautiful." And he sat there and he just read. It was just one page. He just read the introduction, and he just closed the book. It looked at me and said, "There's nothing there." And that was the beginning of my journey.
That was the way in which Source communicated with you. These apparent coincidences, that come to you.
It's funny because I watched a movie just recently. I think it's called Interstellar. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And the guy goes into the black hole and he pushes the books out of the shelf.
Yes, right.
When I saw that, I was like, Is that
May-
me?
Maybe, yeah, that maybe it was you from the future, but I think it was
Yeah.
your higher self, or however we want to call it.
Well, I think, from what I've learned from all my studies, from 30 years of being, buried in those teachings, and there's not a day goes by where I don't sort of contemplate or reflect or read or study these profound teachings that come from the East and from many teachers around the world. People, there are a lot of enlightened souls that are sharing, but yeah, there is no self. Ultimately, the book is me. The force that pushed it out is me. The force that willed it to
Yes.
happen. And yeah, sometimes I wonder if there's something, that I can never understand, but it's similar to a dream. I don't know if you've had a dream where you've woken up and haven't been satisfied with the dream, so you go back and you do it again.
I think I
You've got to
have tried that.
try and fix it.
I think I have tried that, but it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Cool. So you left home when you were 21 years old, but before that you were already playing music, right? So you were
Yeah.
a singer before. What made you become a singer? Actually, when did you realize you had this gift?
Um, I think as a small child, I would see the musicians on the TV. I just always looked at them, and I knew that I could do that, or that I was going to do that at some point. And it wasn't till I um, turned 21, which was this, I think, the same year that I took off. So when I took off traveling, I'd only just begun playing music for about a year.
Ah, okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
you.
but it wasn't until my 21st birthday when a guy appeared with a guitar, and he played a song for my birthday, and I just looked at him and said, "That was amazing. I have to do that?" And he said, "You can." And I said, "What do I do?" He said, "Buy a guitar." So I did. I bought a guitar, and I learned.
Okay. So you learned guitar, and did you actually take like any sort of formal instruction for guitar and for voice, for singing?
No, I didn't. I bought a Beatles book and a Neil Young songbook and the guitar, and I started playing. I was sharing the house with some friends, and after a few weeks, they politely asked me to stop playing because it was so bad. And so I drove my car into the bush, the Australian bush. I had a sort of a van that opened up, so I'd sit there, and I was just obsessed. I was playing every day, and then one day a bushwalker walked past and stopped, and when he stopped, I stopped playing, and he asked me, "Why did you stop?" And I said, "Well, I just thought maybe it was annoying or something." And he said, "Why do you think that?" And I said, "Well, the people that I live with, they said it sounds terrible, so I've just come to play here so I don't annoy anybody." And he's like, "How long ago was that?" And I said, "Oh, about 6 months ago." And he said, "Well, maybe you should think that maybe you've improved, because I really think it's beautiful what you're playing." And so yeah, 6 months later, I was playing in the local um, pub, the local
Hmm.
pub, and those guys from my house had to pay to come and see me.
Okay, that's a nice payback. It's not meant in a in a bad way. It's sort of payback still. So
Yeah, so
you
one
you were
year, one year,
playing,
just playing all the time and singing, and yeah, just I didn't get formal lessons.
from not and no lessons for singing either. So it was natural. It came out of you in that way. But you've been doing it for a while now, and have you? developed a sort of routine to keep your voice in shape? Because it's an organic instrument. You can fix a guitar if it's broken, but you cannot fix a voice, or you can, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, yeah. I've made lots of mistakes with singing. I I wouldn't recommend necessarily going about singing the way I have, because I took no formal lessons, and then I was sharing my music and singing professionally, still with no lessons, and I strained a lot sometimes. And then I went from there to into sharing the music I do now, which was sitting together with people, and it started maybe just 5, 10 people, but then it became 30, 40, even up to 100 people, and I'm playing acoustically. So I was really having to, because I was leading, I had to be louder than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I was really projecting my voice. And I look back at old pictures and you see my neck, stressed and strained. And yeah, it was only about 4 years ago that I started to notice my voice was starting to flip out a lot. And even though I had received lessons, I'm very much a self-taught singer.
Okay.
Self-taught everything. It's part of my personality. I love to, I'm a bit of an adventurer, and I always sort of think I'd like to do it my way, But I recommend lessons because it can protect your voice. And now I do warm-ups that I just go on the internet and find gentle warm-ups. There's the lip trills and
Yes.
things like that, and I do that every day, and I sort of try and change my habit to being more relaxed in my neck and my throat, and dropping my jaw and letting the sound come out rather than strain. So
But you
yeah,
you practice yoga, so this kind of breathing is also the basics for the kind of breathing that we need for singing, right?
yeah, I think my yoga and just healthy lifestyle helps. Um, I I don't eat dairy products. I think that makes a big difference, and not a lot of sugar and stuff like that. That
Yeah,
helps.
it definitely does. I am still not so so disciplined when it comes to dairy products. I still eat a lot of cheese, and you can feel it builds flame.
Mm.
So you have to be yeah, cleaning up your throat all the time. That's not good for singers. So you have found a way for your organic instrument to be in a better shape now. And considering that you are doing these regular online concerts, so to say, online get-togethers,
Hmm.
and that before that you were touring a lot as well, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I was.
so you had to keep your voice there all the time.
Yeah, when I was. It's been a blessing actually with this. The virus thing has forced me to stop, because I was literally 10 years on the road continuously touring, with very little breaks, and when even though I was sometimes getting singing lessons or doing singing exercises, because I had developed my habit of kind of straining my voice and projecting loudly, which it's not a bad thing to do occasionally, because it really does have an energy and people can feel it. It's like it's really belting it out there.
Yes.
Um, but because I was touring, when you do your exercises at home, but then when you're in front of 1, 2, 300 people, and the energy's there, you kind of just drop it all and just fall into whatever is your habit. And my habits for playing for 20 years acoustically and belting it out was so strong that it took a lot of effort to sort of change that. And I think having this time where now I'm singing a lot online, so I'm not having to sing above a mass of voices. It's helped me to change that habit, and I'm finding the softness again, and I'm doing a lot of recording too, so that's also very sensitive, so I can sing softer. And I don't want to become a soft singer. My music is kind of known for the energy that it
Yes.
has, and so I just finding that energy without straining. It's the same with guitar playing. You can put a lot of energy into the guitar, but then it starts like bashing the sound out, and acoustically that's fine, but then when you record it, it really gets
Yes,
unpleasant. So,
absolutely. I took part in a workshop with you about toning.
mm.
Um, Maybe you can tell a little bit about it for those who don't know what is meant. And the other question would be if you use toning as a form of warm up in your daily routine.
Yeah, I don't really use it as a warm up because I think it's important to warm up really softly, um, and it depends. I think you have to gauge for yourself if your voice is warm or not. If as soon as you wake up in the morning, you could imagine that your voice should warm up slowly. But if you've already been singing a bit or talking a lot or whatever, your voice is warmer. And but yeah, I rarely jump straight into the practice. I usually do a little bit of lip trills or yawning and things like that just to warm up a bit. But um, in itself, it is a great way to warm up, but it's not designed for that. It's designed as a kind of a. I would say it's a really good exercise for hitting the tones, for learning the different spaces in between the notes and being able to sing on key. But I kind of developed it into a more of a esoteric exercise where you're incorporating the chakra system um, and journeying into the emotions that come through the body, through the spine when we sing.
Okay. And you tune your music to this so-called global tuning, 432 hertz, which opposed to 440 hertz. I mean, there is a discussion. Some people claim this is like humbug, like it's a conspiracy theory about music being in 440 hertz because Goebbels said it should be tuned that way, and there are other people who claim 432 hertz is more like the frequency of nature. Where do you stand in this discussion? What led you to tune your music to this tuning?
I discovered it quite a long time ago, just in reading about it. And then I have a friend in Hawaii who would send me a lot of information about it constantly. And I was tuning my guitar to it, and I had a problem where my harmonium, which is fixed, was I had to tune to that if I was going to play with it, and also my flutes and my harmonicas, I couldn't tune them to 432. So I always found myself, you know, to tune to 432 is no problem. I just change the guitar. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
If it's better, then let's do it. I don't need to stay in 440 unless I'm jamming with someone else. But my own instruments, yeah, I found myself reverting back to 440 so that I could play. Actually, my harmonium was tuned a little bit higher. It was 445, which my first album one is tuned to 445.
Mhm.
So when you try and jam with it, you'd be like, it's a little bit out of tune. But yeah, so eventually I just kept getting sent more and more stuff from him, and I was like, yeah, but I don't really feel the difference. I don't know, if, is it true or not? Like you said, there's so much conflicting evidence out there. But then one day I saw the I think it's called cymatics demonstration, where you have a vibrating plate and they put different materials on the plate, and as the frequency increases, the pattern, it forms a pattern, and then that pattern holds its form for a period of time, and as the vibration or the frequency gets higher, that pattern then falls apart, goes into chaos, and then as it gets higher, it reforms again into a more intricate pattern. And I started to relate that to music. I started to relate that to life and the evolution of consciousness as well. And I started to see that, that everything's vibrating, and as that vibration gets higher, it's sort of a pattern forms, and I think then as that increases, it gets to a point where that pattern falls apart and goes into chaos, and that point there was 440 hertz.
Interesting.
And then when it reformed into a pattern and held itself, that was 432. And I thought, I'm existing right now in a phase of, like I said earlier, that we're going through a phase at the moment, humanity, life, and it appears to me that we're in a chaos phase. If you look at culturally, religiously, economically, there's sort of a mixing and a merging of things. There's like a chaotic period that we're going through, and I think that it makes sense to me that our music would reflect that and be in that frequency of 440. And I'm not saying that frequency is responsible for it. I think everything's connected, everything's related, and that we use music as a tool for us to express ourselves. So it's expressing what we're going through. But my music, I see as something, I wanted to create something that we could strive for, that we could aspire to, that could lead us back to harmony, that it could help us to be connected again to source, because the disharmony is also disconnection. And so I thought, no, I need to make that move and change my music to 432. And so I got my harmonium and tuned each reed, scratched it down, and But it was amazing because I felt the harmonium just started to ring. It really vibrated and sung, and my guitar, my voice, it just seems more natural to me. It feels more natural to me.
It resonates differently, right?
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. You feel it in your head, like it's something, because I also sing in 432 right now, nowadays. So I know there is a difference there. And you also re-released your first album in 432, right?
Yeah, I did.
So did you have to convert the whole thing?
What we did was we took the old files in 440, and then we put them through a tuner. So we lowered the frequency of it, and then I sang it again.
Okay, you sang it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So your wife, Susanna, you mentioned her. You and her, you play music together. We can see you on Facebook every Sunday during these times. So you are a team in every sense of the word. How does work-life balance function for you guys?
Yeah, we live and breathe the music. it's our responsibility to find the balance, and yeah, we designate certain times, so we have a period of the time where we switch on. And Susanna's really amazing at organization and management and that sort of thing. So she's really been instrumental in building a new website and creating social media, networking, and all that sort of stuff. I'm really good at the artistic side of things, creating content and that, and the music, of course, and videos and stuff like that. So we're just finding where our passions are, and then yeah, we dedicate our mornings that no phones are turned on, and no no computers looked at. We have our time together in the morning. We practice yoga together in the morning. We eat breakfast together in the morning, and then we switch on at about 10:30, and then after lunch, we again we switch off all that stuff, and we always go on at least a 1 or 2 hour afternoon walk together and be present with each other. And yeah, we find the balance. It's hard though, it's hard when you live and work with someone, and during a pandemic, the last year, it's been just the two of us. So
Yes.
Moving to a new place here in Spain, we didn't know anybody, so, and also I don't speak Spanish.
I was going
And
to
so
ask.
yeah,
That's my native language. That's right.
yeah, I'm learning the last year, but I'm not surrounded by the language because Susanna speaks fluent English, and yeah, it's we we have really we've really breezed through it, and we're just very lucky that we resonate uh, very harmoniously, the two of us, and we love each other dearly, and yeah,
It
completely
shows.
blessed, completely blessed there.
Well, that's awesome. So we are about to finish the interview, and I have a little bit of a cliche question for you, or
Hmm.
maybe two cliche questions. The first one, which kind of singers or musicians you looked up to? You mentioned the Beatles when you were learning guitar with the Beatles and Neil Young. And the other question would be if you have any advice for aspiring singers, apart from taking voice lessons.
Hmm. Which other musicians I looked up to?
Yes.
Um, was Cat Stevens, James Taylor, and then later on it was Deva Pamal and Mitten and
All right.
Krishna Das and Jai Hutal. Um, and advice for singers, I think that it's important to really face your inner demons, to be able to share your voice. It's it really takes a lot of awareness, self-awareness, to overcome the fear of being judged by others. And we have a tendency to want to be able to sing perfectly
Yes.
before we share, so that, but we're actually, we have to ask questions. The only way we're going to see the phantom inside of us that holds us back from sharing our heart, sharing our gift, is through questioning, uh, not by judging, not by reasoning, but by questioning.
That's awesome advice, really. It's the voice, it's like the most hardly judged instrument. It's organic, so it will never be perfect. You can make a piano to be pitch perfect, an electric piano, and it will be pitch perfect all the time, but the voice has a resonance, and you can use vibrato, you can use any technique, and it will never be exactly like a piano. And
No,
some
and
people
you never know
expect
how
that.
it's going to sound as well, you know. And for me, doing the live gigs, you press live, and you don't know if you're going to cough. You don't know if you're
Right.
seeing, if you're tired today. Voices. And if you're in the studio, you just say, "Well, I'm not going to use that take." But if you're doing live stuff, I I sing quite badly sometimes, and I just have to go through that. And after a period of time, you start to realize that, well, you know what, nothing happened. Nobody wrote to me and said, hey, you sang flat, you know on that
No.
song. And so I think that just by sharing your voice, overcoming the fear is by through experience. You just give yourself that experience, and you start to realize um, that nothing's going to happen. It's really, you don't realize the rope is you don't realize the snake is a rope until you get close enough to see it. So yeah, get in there and share it, share your voice, and then the more you share it, you get better at it, and you get known for it as
Right.
well. I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but I'm known because I share.
And you have a voice of your own.
Yeah, and everybody's got a unique voice.
That's true. And some people try to emulate other singers, but actually, we have a gift, each and every one of us. We have a voice of our own, and it is up to us to use this gift. It's my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's why I created that morning practice. The toning through the chakras. One of the aims of that is to find your natural voice, and it really does help with that because you're continually releasing, letting go.
So, how can people find you on the World Wide Web?
KevinJamesMusic.com. It's very easy. If you just type in Kevin James anywhere in Google or YouTube, you'll get a comedian from America.
Yes, yes.
I had the dilemma of, in the beginning of my career to sort of come up with you know, some kind of name or a spiritual name, but I kind of felt that, well, my songs are really what it's about, the message that I want to share with the world. And I I'd happy I think it's important for me. It was important for me just to keep the name that I was given, and just accept that. It's the most common name in Australia. I think it's quite common in Germany as well, isn't it?
Kevin, it's yeah, well, you find a few Kevins here, but this combination Kevin James, no, it's not very often. But I think in the US as well. And one of my favorite singers, he's called Kevin James. He's from Canada, Kevin James Labrie, but he goes by James Labrie.
Oh, okay.
So there are quite a few. So speaking of live, would you sing a couple a cappella lines from one of your songs for the audience?
Yeah, sure. Any song, huh?
Yeah, any song you want.
Well, what comes to my mind is the the lyrics, the beginning, the opening verse of Wild Free Spirit.
Sure.
Life is like a flower, and it's in between two needles. It's for you to work it out, or just to play it as it feels. And I hope you'll find what you came here for. 'Cause nothing lasts forever. We are spirit passing through this world. And I wrote this song to help us to remember.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I can send you a reaction here via Zoom. Virtual applause. Thanks for your time, Kevin. It was very nice talking to you about all these topics. And I wish you much success with the new album, that it will reach a lot more people, and that
Thanks, man.
we can see you live, like face to face sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to that too. We'll have a
Okay,
cup of tea or something.
sure. Goodbye, Kevin. So that was it. That was my interview with Kevin James for episode 3 of the Heart of Singing podcast. I hope you liked it. I hope you will check out Kevin James' music and his latest album, Wild Free Spirit. It's really, really cool. I bought it, I have it, and I recommend it to everybody. So I hope you like it when you listen to it. I hope you give him a follow. You can find all his information here in the show notes or the video description. And I hope you will be there again next time, when I will have another guest and another singer-songwriter in this case. So I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and follow The Heart of Singing on Instagram, The Heart of Singing podcast on Facebook, and you can follow my account, Henry Vocalist, on Instagram and on Facebook. So see you next time.